What happens to guns that are seized or held long-term by the police under red flag laws? Destruction or sale, what will happen? If your guns are seized under red flag laws, the police can't just hold on to them indefinitely. So what is the long-term fate of these guns? If your guns are taken as part of a red flag, the firearms are going to remain in law enforcement custody for an extended period of time. And we've talked about that, how if your guns are taken in that final retention hearing, then it's going to be at least 6 months before you can get those guns back. So the police have to hold on to them for 6 months. There are legal procedures for the disposition of what happens to those firearms. If a firearm is held for at least 5 years pursuant to the retention order, then the court may take further action. So generally speaking, with these retention orders, right, if your guns are taken and maybe in 6 months you can show, hey, I got my mental health issues treated and maybe I'm medicated, or hey, the issues that I was having, the threats I'm having, I'm no longer like that, then you can get your firearms back. But if after 5 years you still haven't been able to get those back, then Indiana does provide a framework for what will happen to those guns. So the court has many options if after that 5-year period the guns are still being held by the police. Oftentimes, especially if it's in the criminal sense, then we're going to do a destruction order. The court can order that the firearms be destroyed, and they will be. But there are also other remedies to be had. So court could order this transferred to a responsible third party. So maybe let's say your firearms were taken and it took, after 5 years, you still were not in the right state of mind to get them back for whatever reason. But maybe it's a sentimental gun. Maybe it was passed down, things like that. Potentially a third party, maybe a family member, they can still legally have that gun. They could ask the court, hey, can you release the gun to me? That could happen. Also, it could be transferred to a federal firearms licensee for safekeeping or a consignment sale. And then the firearm could be sold at public auction. These last three are kind of a little bit more rare. Generally speaking, what happens to those guns is there is a destruction order. But when we're talking red flag, because again, this is a civil procedure, it's not a criminal procedure, it could be more likely that your firearm could be transferred to a third party, or it could have a consignment sale. And importantly, if you have a firearm that's seized and it eventually gets sold at a consignment sale, you are supposed to get the money minus the cost that firearm generated. So if they sell it for $1,000 and it costs them $100 to do it, there's $900 left. That should go to the person whose guns were seized. So it's not like they seize the guns, they sell them, and then they're going to keep all the profits. So there are numerous alternatives to the destruction, although destruction is ultimately what most commonly happens when police are holding on to guns. If you have any questions about what's going to happen if my firearms are seized, what's going to happen long term to my guns, call the Marc Lopez Law Firm at 317-632-3642. And remember, always plead the fifth.